Hello and welcome to the Kongversation. Meanie. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I'm CR.
Yeah, you are KVCR. Well, Cameron, before we get started, let me just say, because this episode's going to go up where usually the full-length episode of the week goes up for the Kongversation. So just quick programming note. The full-length episode of the Kongversation is, in fact, coming. It'll just be a couple days late. We are not taking a week off. This isn't, me dying of fatigue again. This is just a little scheduling switcheroo here to accommodate all of my co-hosts for the upcoming week. And we have to do this episode first, so we're just slotting this into where you would normally get your full-length conversation. Full-length conversation should be coming in a day or two after this. But we're doing this episode, Cameron, because it turns out we were wrong. But luckily, it turns out that everyone was wrong, and that's the kind of being wrong I like the best. When nobody is right. Oh boy. So the long winding road that has taken us to figure out what long winding road this track in Mario Kart Tour actually was, has come to its conclusion. This started earlier this year when data miners for Mario Kart Tour uncovered a track codenamed Mob DK, sometimes called Mob DK, but it's in fact referring to Mob, M-O-B, as a mobile track, a track devised for Mario Kart Tour. It's how Mario Kart Tour original tracks are prefixed, and they found one called Mob DK, which of course titillates a certain subsection of Donkey Kong fans, or Rare fans, because you think, oh well, okay, it's going to be a new Donkey Kong track.
Contextually, this is also following on Mob YI, meaning Yoshi's Island. Exactly.
This was, I think, found right around the same time. So, and of course, they announced almost immediately what Mob YI was, because we got the big Yoshi Island track reveal with the Booster Course Pass and Mario Kart Tour. But it turns out, Cameron, it turns out that the codename is not for a new Donkey Kong track, be it a Donkey Kong arcade-themed track, as we hypothesized, or something set somewhere on Donkey Kong Island, as I think most fans were hoping for, or, as we were speculating based on Data Miner's new assertion a couple of weeks back, a track entitled Daisy Kingdom. No, it's none of that. It turns out it's for a track that was added to Mario Kart Tour for the Pipe Tour that went live about a week and a half ago, the Piranha Plant Pipeline. And this is a track where you race through a series of pipes, of multicolored pipes in a mountainside. You've got branching paths, all color-coded, a bunch of tubes, and piranha plants jumping out at you. And it turns out that is Mob DK. And you might be wondering, I don't see the connection. Like, I barely saw the connection when they attached Donkey Kong to ski resorts, snowboard resorts. What does this have to do with Donkey Kong? And it turns out it has nothing to do with Donkey Kong at all, Cameron. Nothing at all. Okay, so Dokan roughly means like a clay pipe in Japan, and it's the term used for warp pipes in the Mario series. Dokan, D-O-K-A-N. And in Mario Kart DS, there was an unused track, a track that they were tinkering with that they never got finished or decided not to use. And internally, it was Dokan Course. Dokan _ course, very similar to the Mob _ DK. And Dokan course in Mario Kart DS, people have like dug it up through, various, trickery and what have you.
Yeah. You can watch a video of what remains of it online.
Yeah.
It is extremely incomplete.
Yeah.
But you can watch a whole lap of it.
Right. And this is very similar to that. And when they announced this was coming, a lot of people thought, oh, they're actually dusting this off and they're finishing Dokan course. But it turns out these have very different layouts. Like conceptually, there might be some crossover, but they didn't just go back and use this unfinished course in Mario Kart DS. This is actually all new. All new. Like Donkey Kong Land 2 has all new levels, even though they were inspired by Donkey Kong Country 2. There, I brought it home for us. I explained it in terms, well, I would understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure, like, if one is explicitly derived for the other, or if it's just a wild coincidence, but in either case, as I said, it was a very, very unfinished course.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that they used it as a springboard more than anything. But it's still, like, conceptually cool to bring it back.
I guess it is. Now, this was apparently abbreviated early on, like earlier this year, as MOB DK, just shortening Dokan to the two most prominent consonants. And, DK otherwise always means Donkey Kong in these contexts. So, data miners would have misinterpreted this, and I don't fault them, Cameron. I don't fault them for jumping off into wild conclusion land upon seeing MOB DK. And we were talking about this on the last mini we did about Donkey Kong Gladiator, and this is when we had a sort of drama where people started speculating, the same data miner started speculating that might not actually be a Donkey Kong course after all. Because when it became clear that MOB DK was actually being lined up to debut soon, they saw, and I don't know how they do this, Cameron. This is beyond my pay grade. This is like reading Matrix code or whatever, and I'm still very much plugged in. So, I don't understand how they do this, but they see this and they saw what it was being paired with roughly around the same time. And they saw several desert-themed tracks in this pipe tour. They didn't know it was the pipe tour, but they saw several desert-themed tracks like Calamari Desert and the various ancient Egyptian pastiches.
It's a thing where I can understand where people assumed there was a pattern where there wasn't, because having experienced the last couple weeks of Mario Kart Tour, there's just kind of cowboys for no reason.
There's two different types of desert that they seem to be celebrating right now. There is the American Southwest, and like they've had a couple like frontier, like Oregon Trail wagons or something.
In the update that brought Gladiator Donkey Kong, we got a covered wagon cart.
Right. And I believe that was called
and that was just a night tour.
Yeah, I believe that was called the Yeehaw cart or something. The Yeehaw wagon or something really odd like that. And then, with this update, they added
the Yeehaw wagon.
Yeehaw wagon. With this update, they kind of added a reskin version of that, the Desert Rose, which pairs with the new Pauline variant they added, the fourth version of Pauline in the game, her third variant.
This one's also weird to me because I think arguably the Yeehaw wagon fits her aesthetic better, but whatever.
She's got the whole rose aesthetic with the one variant, and this is Desert Rose, so, great Sting song from the 90s, but, I've never associated Pauline with the desert, and neither have data miners, apparently, because they saw all of this desert stuff, both the American Southwest and sort of Nile River Valley, just the two extremes Mario Kart goes with when it comes with deserts, right?
I kind of just have to laugh at the whole, laugh off the whole series of events that led to this point, because we only have this information to misinterpret because of data mining data we are not meant to see.
Yeah. This is why, DK Vine doesn't normally tread in these waters. Like, if stuff gets nicked early on through these means, I generally don't report on it because I'm like, I think it's betraying what the developers want, the order of events they want to unfurl for you. The ukulele costumes were added to Fall Guys this weekend. And that was data mined like weeks ago, and I didn't report on it because I'm like, well, we're not meant to see this yet, so I'm just gonna wait until Playtonic announces it.
And for that matter, wasn't much point because you couldn't buy them yet anyway.
Right, but in cases like this was such an odd series of circumstances that was buoyed by the excitement of the Booster Course Pass and the promise that, oh, well, of course, Diddy's gonna get in the game now, and oh my god, we're gonna get a Donkey Kong track, because, they introduced Birdo with the Yoshi's Island track, and Birdo's kind of associated with Yoshi, like, it's been implied that Birdo and Yoshi might have a bit of a thing going on, so it was just the perfect storm to get us excited about this.
That's the other folly, is trying to perceive a logical pattern to the actions of the Mario Kart series.
Yeah. So, what happened is the data miners were then looking that Mob DK was going to appear with all of this desert stuff. And they also saw Daisy Cruiser was coming. They were like 2 weeks off with that, but they saw Daisy Cruiser was coming, desert stuff was coming, and they just said, well, Mob DK, it's not going to be Donkey Kong themed. It's going to be Daisy themed. And if it's all desert oriented Daisy Kingdom, it's Super Mario Land. We're getting a Super Mario Land track. And okay, like that's a bigger leap than DK meaning Donkey Kong, right? But I can see how you can talk yourself into that when you pair everything together, when you're just reading simple code names and data. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't fault any of the assumptions people made. I can say that a lot of the times, like, and myself included, in the like Donkey Kong and greater like Rare and Nintendo communities, we are prone to jump to conclusions. This, I feel like jumping to the conclusion that, oh, DK means Donkey Kong was a reasonable assumption.
Yeah, and for DK to mean Daisy Kingdom, that's a bigger leap. A bigger leap,
but circumstantially I understand in the context.
What I love about this, though, Cameron, is that this not only just devastates Donkey Kong fans who were just holding out hope for some good news when it came to, well, anything right now being in this drought. I know we have the promise of good stuff on the horizon, some of it very concrete.
Speaking of droughts, you think Daisy rules a desert kingdom because this is where all the irrigation in the Mushroom Kingdom is going toward?
Yeah. So Donkey Kong fans are disappointed, but then I can't even imagine what, like, the hardcore Daisy aficionados out there who are like, it's one thing for Daisy to be featured. I know Daisy's getting into Super Mario Wonder, whatever. She's gonna be playable, but for her heritage, like, basic tenets of the character beyond here's the character to be celebrated, that's something else entirely.
Yeah, it maybe should have been more of a red flag that this course would have nothing to do with Daisy, because my thought when people started speculating that was, oh wow, everybody knows Daisy debuted in Super Mario Land, but they never really explicitly call back to it beyond just like kind of dropping that factoid in.
Yeah.
It's about on the same level as saying, oh, Diddy Kong was in Diddy Kong Racing, but you're never going back to Timber's Island, we're never going to talk about Timber, etc. Except in this case, they're legally allowed to reference Super Mario Land.
Right. Yeah. So I can't imagine what it must have felt like to momentarily get your hopes up. Oh, we're gonna get Super Mario Land and all the weird aesthetics there, and those like Moai heads and Tatanga, and like, could you imagine that in a Mario Kart track? It's ground Mario Kart has never treaded. It's just verboten. It's just forbidden for them to reference anything beyond the usual, like, EAD, EPD kind of wheelhouse.
Granted, the fact that they did an extremely, like, lavishly faithful Yoshi's Island track kind of planted the seed in people's heads of, like, oh, maybe this is something they can do from now on.
Exactly. But no, we got kind of the most disappointing outcome, all things considered. Because even somebody who would want a new Donkey Kong track because of all the promise that brings, like me, I would have still really would think that a Super Mario Land track would be cool, right? Because I'm all about referencing history whenever you can reference it. But what we got was just another Piranha Plant based track, which we already have one of those in Mario Kart Tour.
That is a weird thing that I was going to bring up, because it was something that was definitely on my mind when they announced this, which is, wait a second, they already had, this is Piranha Plant Pipeline. They already had Piranha Plant Cove as a Tour original track. Every Tour original track thus far has ended up in the Booster Course Pass, so why is the final wave of the Booster Course Pass, presumably, again, making assumptions about Mario Kart, is a losing game, but I'm gonna go ahead and roll those dice anyway. Why would you have two courses with Piranha Plant in the name in the final wave of the pass? And so that's when I investigated, maybe this doesn't have Piranha Plant in the name in Japanese, and sure enough, it does not.
Yeah.
Piranha Plant Cove in Japan, the name translates to Piranha Temple. And Piranha Plant Pipeline, owing to the Dokan abbreviation, the Japanese name of Piranha Plant Pipeline, in accordance with the Dokan abbreviation, is Dokan Canyon, which you could probably figure out means pipe canyon. And honestly, I can kind of see, like, that's a nice little... I feel like they're doing a little bit of wordplay in the Japanese name that works out, so...
Yeah.
I get why they're doing it, and I feel like the English name tried to do, like, a similar kind of alliterative, fun name, not realizing it would be so close to Piranha Plant Cove.
Well, and also, in Tour at least, we also have Piranha Plant Slide for Mario Kart 7, which is a little bit different. It's more styled after, like, Super Mario Brothers, the original Super Mario Brothers aesthetic, but you're still going underground in pipes with piranha plants chomping at you everywhere. So it just feels very much like, again, we're doing this again. Like, are we really that stretched for concepts when it comes to Mario Kart that we have to just go over the same ground again and again when we can't have something new? Like, I don't know, a Super Mario Land track?
It also raises the question for me again, in terms of expecting to see a pattern when I really shouldn't. It makes me wonder, they put PD Piranha in the Booster Course Pass, but not in a wave that has either of these.
Yeah. I think the only pattern I can see, because of course we all saw the pattern with Birdo and Yoshi's Island, and it turns out that was just that there was no pattern there. That was just a coincidence.
That was always kind of like flimsy at best, because people do associate Birdo and Yoshi together, but Birdo's never been in a Yoshi's Island game. Right,
just like Waluigi's never been in a Wario game. But we still saw them flirting in Mario Tennis. I think
Wario and the Waluigi?
Yeah, they weren't really clear on their relationship back then. I don't know, like, the only pattern I can see with the most recent wave in the Booster Course Pass is that the lack of Diddy Kong really made me sick and want to run to the bathroom, which is why it was great that the bathroom track was added. So, yeah, obviously, I think I know I have. I know I've mentally like already checked out, and I've just kind of built up that wall in my brain thinking, well, we're not going to get Diddy. We got one more wave to go, 2 more character slots, and we're just not going to get Diddy in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's ridiculous that it's come down to the wire, as it always seems to do with us, except for like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, where we were just blessed with King K. Rool before launch, and then Banjo and Kazooie were added before the end of the Fighter Pass. But I just have to mentally brace myself that this thing that was such a surefire, like, certainty in February is now just, it's probably not going to happen, because who the fuck knows?
I've kind of had to resign myself to the same for my own, like, managing my own expectations, and also trying to temper my future reactions, because, and I realize this just devolves into complaining about Mario Kart rosters anytime I'm brought on to talk about Mario Kart.
Which is why I bring you on, Cameron.
But I don't want that to always be the thing I talk about, and I know that I will be right back here if I spend the next few months talking about, oh yeah, there's still a good chance for Diddy, and then he's not in. We're going to do this whole song and dance again. And I decided, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not. Lucy's holding that football. I'm not going to run up and kick it this time.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do it.
It's better to brace for disappointment and just like write it off now than to actually be disappointed. I mean, of course, when they announce the next Nintendo Direct, I'm going to walk into it and sure enough, that flurry of anticipation of hope will spring up. But until that moment, I can sort of deaden myself.
Right. I'm not trying to be ultra pessimistic about it either, because that's extremely grating for the opposite reason.
Right. There has to be some sort of Zen-like middle ground you can walk. And, I've been doing this at DK Vine for 24 years, and I don't think I've quite figured out how to do it. I'm better than I used to be, but I still, that want is still there. And to be fair, like, this is a very uniquely us problem, right? Like, it's a very unique problem for this particular fandom, because, and I'm sure you can bring up comparisons for every fandom. Well, what about this? What about that? But here's the point I'm trying to make. We are holding out hope that a character, a Donkey Kong character who has been in multiple Mario Kart games, gets into this Mario Kart game that has the biggest roster ever seen in a Mario Kart game sans tour. Why isn't he in there? Why wasn't he in the base game back on the Wii U? I don't understand what's happening.
I end up getting into this discussion when I talk about Mario Kart 8 with people, because I think I end up honestly being more defensive than I want to be, because I think it's assumed that, well, yeah, why does DK Vine care so much about Diddy being in Mario Kart? Why is it so important that Mario Kart has Donkey Kong characters in it? Like, why do they think it means so much about the future of the franchise? And I'm over here like, I don't care what it means about the future of the Donkey Kong franchise. It's as simple as, I like Diddy Kong as a character, and he has been in several Mario Kart games where he was my favorite character.
Right.
And when a series lets you play as a character one game and then doesn't the next, and that character was the one you used all the time, it's not great. It doesn't feel good. That's simple as it. I like Diddy Kong, and it makes me sad when I can't play as.
I won't go on and on, because this is a mini, and I could talk for hours about this, Cameron, as you well know. But I will say that Diddy is my absolute favorite character of all time in anything, as I'm prone to point out. And I don't think this is a big ask, considering, like, Mario Kart 8 I recognize as the best Mario Kart game. And I would love to play my favorite character in the best Mario Kart game. And considering he has been in multiple Mario Kart games. This isn't even like us wanting K. Rool in Smash Brothers. I can't believe we pulled that off. But this isn't even that outrageous of a want. This is just, oh, okay, you gave me something and now you're depriving me of it. Can I have it back, please? That's it.
Yeah, if Diddy Kong were never in Mario Kart up to this point, this wouldn't even be on the radar of my thought. One, because they said it's returning characters only, but...
And yeah, like, in an ideal world, I wouldn't care about this because we would have Diddy Kong racing games. We would have Donkey Kong racing games, and I could just get my yayas out that way. But we don't have those. Our world has shrunk considerably.
And I mean, I said this last time I was on, I don't love... When opportunities like this come up where we find out, oh, there are characters in a Mario Kart game that we don't yet know about, and there's a limited number of them, I don't like this sort of pitting favorite characters against each other where I have to be disappointed seeing Petey Piranha and Wiggler in the game because they're not my favorite characters, even though, yeah, they should be in Mario Kart. Yeah, because they were in other Mario Kart games, and people liked playing as them.
We talked about Mario Kart DS a little bit ago. Is Wiggler, will Wiggler have the infamy that Rob had in Mario Kart DS for Diddy Kong fans if Diddy Kong does not make it in? I guess it depends who gets into Wave 6. That will represent the Rob, but...
People have latched onto Wiggler a little bit because it's been extremely memed that you can have Wiggler drive the Wiggler-shaped cart.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm just...
I think if there's a character who will be memed the way that Rob does, which, I don't know, maybe DK Vine has moved beyond acting that way, hopefully. Maybe.
We'll see. We'll see.
But I think it'll be in the final wave, and it will depend on who they go with.
Maybe we're all still wrong, and Mob DK refers to the Dark Knight, and it'll be Batman.
Freezer in the chat mentions DK Jr. would be funny if he got in, but not Diddy. I could genuinely see them using the sprite of DK Jr.
Yeah, oh my god, it's DK, the sprite of DK Jr. and the sprite of Mario from Super Mario Kart, and that's it. Oh my god.
I mean, the reason that thought enters my head is, again, seeing patterns that may not be there. When they've announced the characters for the last wave, they took pains to mention what Mario Kart game they were from.
Mm-hmm.
And the only character you can say is from Super Mario Kart is DK Jr. He's the only one left.
Well, Cameron, on the plus side, we are getting something Donkey Kong related coming to Mario Kart Tour this Wednesday with the new tour. And that is Lakeside Park from off of Mario Kart Super Circuit. We just talked about this recently here on the Kongversation. It is the unofficial second Donkey Kong Island track from that game. Kind of a sibling to Riverside Park, which itself is a relative to DK's Jungle Parkway from off of Mario Kart 64. So, at the very least, if we don't get Diddy in Wave 6 of the Booster Course Pass, we'll probably be getting Lakeside Park, and then we can all light ourselves on fire.
This has been a File 2 production.
¡Qué rico!